I remember sitting at a table across from a girl named Samantha. Her name was written on her name tag, so I remember that much. But beyond that, my mind was completely blank. I was so busy trying to think of 3 different conversation points before I spoke that I didn't actually speak at all. Instead of building a connection or even just talking like a normal person, we just sat there in silence, almost like a game of chicken, wanting to see who would talk first. That moment captures how I used to approach dating. I'm an insecure overachiever by nature, and that's not just a personality quirk. It's how I built my life. At one point, I was close to 380 pounds. I had sleep apnea. I was borderline diabetic. My health was falling apart in ways that were no longer abstract or cosmetic. It was becoming dangerous. When I finally addressed the sleep apnea, everything changed. I was able to start losing weight, and once the weight started coming off, the rest followed. I reversed the diabetes, my energy came back, and over time I became healthier than I'd ever been. I got there by grinding. In the beginning, there was no balance. I worked out every day, no days off. I trained as much as my body could tolerate. Even after I reached a healthy weight and my sleep apnea was gone, I kept going because I could see the results. In the gym, effort is rewarded in a very straightforward way. You lift more, you sweat more, your muscles get sore, and your body adapts. More effort reliably produces more results. That model worked perfectly in my life, so I assumed it worked everywhere else. It didn't. Dating and social connection don't operate like a gym. There is no emotional equivalent of one more rep. You don't get closer to people by forcing effort, becoming harder, performing harder, or pushing through discomfort the same way you do physically. That was a hard lesson for me, and it's still one I'm working through. The social and emotional gym doesn't reward intensity, it rewards presence. That mismatch is where I kept breaking down. I treated dating the way I treated training. More effort, more discipline, more optimization. Instead of getting stronger, I just got tighter, more anxious, and more self-anxious. That's when I started looking for a different framework. That's where something like a Buddhist mindset came in for me. Not in a spiritual or mystical sense, but in a very practical one. I stopped attaching myself to outcomes and started focusing on being present. When I say detaching from outcomes, I don't mean becoming passive or pretending not to care. I mean letting go of the idea that every interaction has to lead somewhere. Once I did that, dating actually became easier and more enjoyable. I used to hate the idea of approaching women, especially cold approaching. In my head, I imagined everyone watching me, judging me, and silently shaming me for even trying. In reality, no one cares. People are too wrapped up in themselves. Rejection still stings, but only briefly. What surprised me was that after approaching someone, even if it didn't go anywhere, I felt proud of myself for acting instead of freezing. That small rush of adrenaline became motivating, but you only get it by risking rejection. You don't know if she'll say yes or no, and that uncertainty is the point. You move forward anyway. The same principle applies once you're already on a date. Early dates often feel awkward because both people are performing. You're trying to be likable, interesting, and impressive, while hiding the parts of yourself you think might be rejected. Underneath that performance is fear. The fear of being exposed, fear of being unwanted, fear that if you're honest, the other person will lose interest. At some point, I asked myself a question that cut through that performance. If this person doesn't like me as I am right now, why would they suddenly like me a year into a relationship? The harder I tried to be the funniest or most impressive version of myself, the less authentic I felt and the weaker that connection became. When I stopped performing, something important changed. I could tell much more clearly who was receptive to me and who wasn't. Instead of trying to say the right thing, I started saying whatever was closest to my mind in that moment. Not to provoke or impress, but to see whether this person actually liked me. Sometimes they didn't, and that was fine. I would rather keep my sense of humor and my personality than twist myself into someone else just to keep someone interested. Dating stopped being about convincing people and became more about filtering. I also noticed a sense of familiarity. Conversations felt more relaxed and more real. At first, that comfort felt strange, and I caught myself wondering why things felt so easy. Eventually, I realized it wasn't because the other person was unusually open. but because I was. The more vulnerable I became, the more space there was for genuine connection. Not oversharing or trauma dumping, but just honesty in real time. This is where Buddhism stopped being theoretical for me, especially around sex and relationships. When sex or relationship wasn't happening, what I was trying to avoid wasn't desire itself. It was loneliness, worthlessness, and the fear of not being wanted. Sex became symbolic for me, not just something enjoyable, but proof that I mattered. When I finally had sex again, after a long time, I felt incredible at first. I felt confident and grounded, like everything was finally falling into place. But the next day, when she wasn't responding and had effectively ghosted me, I spiraled. Every moment of silence felt like losing ground. I tried to get that feeling of validation back and ended up feeling ashamed. What became clear was that I didn't want sex as much as I wanted relief from emptiness. That realization is almost impossible to teach. I only learned it by chasing sex long enough to finally get it, and they realized it didn't fix anything. It exposed how empty I really already, if anything, it exposed how empty I already was. Sex is fun, and there's nothing wrong with wanting it, but when you treat it like salvation, it becomes another craving that never satisfies. What actually changed after that was letting go of guarantees. I had believed, whether I made it or not, that once we had sex, something was secured. When she disappeared from my life, I had to confront the fact that as an adult, no one can truly abandon you except yourself. People can leave, change their minds, or disappear anytime. That isn't betrayal or abandonment, it's just reality. Once I accept that, I stopped seeing women as solutions to something missing in me. I stopped seeing them as validation or proof of worth. I started seeing them as people, just as flawed and confused as I am. I don't want someone to complete me anymore. I want someone to join my life, not feel alone in it. That's what Buddhism gave me as dating advice. Not passivity, indifference, or detachment from desire, but the ability to let go of the illusion that another person can save me. It helped me stop using sex or relationships to avoid myself and start demanding guarantees from life. If you want to start practicing this, don't overthink it. Start with your breath. Because if you can't feel your own breath, you're not going to be present with another person. And talk to people, not just women you're attracted to, but to everyone. Practice being a little more honest and a little more vulnerable in everyday interactions. Learn how to build connection with anyone so that when you talk to a woman you find attractive, you're not performing or putting her on a pedestal. You're just talking to another human being. That's where actual connection begins.